If you're not having kids, you're selfish. You should be having kids, sharing your knowledge, your resources, everything you have to give with the next generation. Kids are literally the best thing that is going to happen to you. You should start earlier than you think that you are ready. Having kids will actually make you ready, because when you have that forcing function in your life of kids, you'll do whatever it takes for these little human beings.
Why don't you want kids? It looks absolutely amazing. Why wouldn't you want it? Why wouldn't you want to experience this kind of joy and happiness? Because everything I'm seeing online is this. Everything I'm seeing is moms basically being harassed, not being able to eat, not being able to finish a freaking marathon because the children are just being dumped onto them. Because I'm seeing videos of mom being like, I was sick for a day and I'm coming home and this is what the kitchen looks like, and it's a whole disaster. Because fathers spending time with their children are babysitting the kids today. No, you're not babysitting the kids. You're taking care of your own children. Why is it babysitting when the dads are spending time with their kids? Because they're never asking fathers, how are you doing with being a father and also working at the same time? Because no matter what you do, you're going to be judged regardless as a mother. The expectations are so much higher than they are for the father. Always. Because at the end of the day, the burden is always on the mother. That is the reality. And it just truly feels like moms can't catch a break. That's everything I'm seeing is showing me that. Tell me if I'm wrong, please. Moms, please chime in.
There's this creator on here that made a TikTok saying about how like the childless are ungovernable. And I think the movement is called like anti-natalism. I think that's what it's called. And him talking about like how basically once you have kids, you can't take financial risks, you can't do what you want, you can't be who you want, because everything you have to like think about the kids. And it reminds me of this time when I was in my early 20s. I had a boss who once like walked in and there was like a group of salespeople in a room. And I'll never forget the time she literally was like, yeah, I love when y'all have mortgages and I love when y'all have kids. Obviously, I didn't have either at the time. She was like, I love when y'all have mortgages and I love when y'all have kids, because that basically means you're like committed to work for me. And that never escaped my mind, where she was basically saying like her most loyal employees like have mortgages and have kids, and I don't have either. And I think that's why, I mean, I've definitely always been like anti-kids since my like teenage years. And of course, everyone's like, you're going to change your mind. You're going to change your mind. And I'm 32 now, and I unequivocally never, ever want kids because I love my freedom so much. But that's just a little nugget that I want to leave you with.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Omolmi, aka Petite Diva, and in this video we are discussing how people treat child-free people. So how people who want kids, have kids, treat people who say they don't want kids or are child-free for a while. Let's check out what people have to say about how people treat child-free people, and then I'll come back to share my thoughts.
When someone tells you that their child is not by choice, there's only one thing you should say, which is, that must be so hard. How are you doing? And just listen. Don't offer any unsolicited advice. Just listen and create a safe space for people to share their experience.
Our society is so judgmental of women who didn't get married and don't have kids.
Okay, I just want to address this point here about how we shame women who do not have kids, because there's so much truth in that. And I can tell you firsthand, when I was on the fence about whether or not to have kids, one of the biggest things that kept me stuck from making a decision that I could feel good about was the fact that I felt shameful about the fact that I didn't really have a desire personally to become a mom, that I felt like if I didn't become a mom, there was something wrong with me as a woman, that it was unnatural, that like there was something wrong with my biology. And so, while I can speak firsthand from this experience, my circumstance is of course different than creator Yale, who speaks to the pain of not being able to have children, of wanting to have had children, and circumstances prevented her from having kids. And that's what I want to say here, is that when we send this message across the board that women not having kids equals wrong, equals bad, it's not just the pain it causes those who've chosen not to have kids, but it's the burden we really put upon people who are already struggling, who are already grieving, who have wanted to have children more than anything, who have had a dream of having children, who have struggled with infertility, or who haven't found that right partner for themselves, or have had health issues. And so, this is why we need to be really mindful about of course, making commentary about other people's reproductive choices and circumstances, but also asking people about their choices and pointing fingers about people's choices, because we just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I'm going to say it's one thing to be asking myself, someone who feels confident in her child-free choice. It's something else to be pointing a finger at and disparaging someone who really, really wanted to and longed to have children and was unable to.
I grew up in a big French Catholic family, and getting married and having kids was like the ultimate goal in life. The way that women in a lot of family systems are treated better for being married and having children is glaringly obvious to me at this point. It was always about getting married, having kids, and those of us who did obviously got more attention because of those moments in our life. And I'm just looking back, especially at my wedding, which was almost 18 years ago at this point, and thinking about the amount of worthiness that I was given because I was getting married. And I don't necessarily think it's right. I don't think it's something that women should look to attain, especially within a family system. It's like we have to earn that respect and earn our place through marriage. And now that some of my cousins are getting older and having children, I've noticed that the concept of who's worthy or more worthy is now defined as who has children and who doesn't. And both of those milestones, getting married and having children, have to do with your connection to a man. This is why I didn't tell really anybody in my family that I was in graduate school, because I knew that me going to graduate school wouldn't be as happy or big of an announcement to them as me having a child. And there's almost a level of disgust and anger and resentment towards those of us who are either married and don't have kids or who aren't married and don't have kids.
I'm never having kids. All my Gen Z friends agree we won't be parents in a world like this. When you consider the economy, the job market, the rising cost of everything, and climate change, what about all of this is supposed to make Gen Z want to have kids? The New York Times is even predicting that the population is going to peak at 10 billion this century and then decline all the way to 2 billion rapidly. Gen Z not wanting to have kids is only a small piece of the puzzle that's going to lead to this massive population decline. Access to food is going to be a bigger and bigger problem every year. This article is from today about Iraq having lost 70% of its farmland. Here's another article from yesterday about how wineries in British Columbia are only producing 1 to 3% of their normal yield because of cold snaps directly caused by climate change. The cold snap also wiped out entire crops of other fruits such as peaches, plums, cherries, and nectarines. 8 to 10 different locations had 100% of their yield destroyed. And this ties right back into the headline from the start. Gen Z doesn't want to have kids because they see the writing on the wall. Gen Z can see that right now it's too expensive to have a kid, and in the future climate change is going to be wreaking havoc on the planet, including destroying the food supply that has supported population growth so far.
Why are mothers so triggered by people that don't want kids?
I think it's because it stings some of us who have decided to be mothers when we think about what was the real reason why we wanted to be a mother. For many of us, it's because, at least for a person like me, it was because I sought identity. I sought identity that was acceptable, cared for, supported, and affirmed by the greater society. Because all the things that I was, in my mind, was not. I'm a child who grew up in significant childhood trauma and poverty, a person who had an absent father, a person who ended up in foster care and aged out, a person of color, a brown person, a brown girl. And to me, those identities weren't of any worth or any of value. So I thought, well, if I'm a mother, now I'm something to be proud of. Now I'm something that people will admire and people will respect and people will affirm. But when you get into the actual day-to-day life of being a mother and you realize how no one cares how you feel, when you realize how much work it is, when you realize how selfless you have to be, how self disappears, who you are as a person disappears, and the society doesn't value you, and you're not even sometimes valued in your own home, then you look back at those women or people who say they didn't want to have kids, and then you realize, those people had a sense of self. The identities and who they are as a person, they know. And they don't need to go and find an identity or find a label to put on themselves to be acceptable, because they're acceptable and okay just as they are. And when you're in the midst of it and you look at it, it stings. It stings because you realize you didn't have a sense of self. And remember, you can feel this way and still love being a mother. You can feel this way and still love your children very much. But there is a mourning and regret you feel about how you disregarded yourself, hoping to find an identity that would be accepted and affirmed by others, instead of realizing that who you are just as a human being, as a woman, as a person, is okay.
When I used to be a server in DC, I would sometimes have patrons who would ask me about my skincare routine. They would always be women, and they would be like, your skin is beautiful, your skin is glowing, you have such a nice body. And then they would ask me, they would be like, are you single? Do you have kids? And of course, I would be like, yes, I'm single, and no, I don't have any kids. And every single time, these women would be like, good, keep it that way. Do not get married and do not have kids. Literally, every single woman, every single one of them. None of them encouraged me to marry or partner with men or have kids. They all told me that I'm doing a good job by staying single and child-free. Many of them also expressed regret to me about their decision to partner with a man, marry a man, and have kids. They told me that if they could turn back the hands of time, they would just stay single like I am. Straight from the horse's mouth, I'm listening.
To me, there's only one major downside of not having kids. And no, it has nothing to do with a nursing home or being a lonely cat woman, is that people don't take you seriously. Everyone expects people who don't have kids to be accommodating to their choice to have kids. What happens is we get the brunt of the work when we don't want it, and we don't get twice the pay. And we're just supposed to be understanding, like, well, she went on maternity leave. That was her choice. To have a baby, you better replace her with someone temporarily to take over that position. I'm not saying you have to fire her, but we need someone to fill in. It ain't gonna be me. You want me to take her role with not her pay? That's crazy. People think because you don't have kids, well, you have all this free time and you can do it. Yeah, but the free time is for me. There was the reason why I didn't have children. It was to make sure my free time was for me, not to do your job and my job. I still got a dog at home. He has to use the bathroom. He has to walk. So no, I can't stay 2 extra hours later just so you can go pick up your kid. Go get a babysitter, go get a date, whatever. Your choice to have a child is not my responsibility, ever.
Surprising downsides to not having children. Let's see what they got. No one to inherit your estate after you're dead. Oh no. This is what wills are for. That's why you will your estate to someone who you're close to, or even a charity. No, people don't do that. Why not create a Braxton with a raging coke problem who grows up and gets all of your shit for free? Feeling pressure. Relatives might be pressuring you into it, so you should just give in, wreck your body and your bank account. Why not? Limited social connections. I'm pretty sure having kids makes you hang out with your friends less. Have these people heard of hobbies? Limited opportunities for growth. If you are so base level that that's all you can think of to grow yourself, have some kids. Possible estrangement from your family because they won't like you anymore because you don't have kids. This is a lie. They always love the rich aunt, cool uncle. They're waiting for them to come around. Potential judgment from society. God, no! These bitches are gonna judge you! Misparenting experiences. I love how they don't suggest adoption at all, even though there are like hundreds of thousands of kids in the foster system and up for adoption in America, but okay. Also, a lot of people don't want to parent. They have enough animals, like in a life and hobbies and things like that, that they don't want to give up on. Like, what's the problem? Lack of a family legacy. What legacy? You're 25K in debt? Generations of bad kidneys? Hush hush of the SA allegations? Like, what legacy? Unfulfilled biological instincts. Oh God, he just can't handle it. Loneliness in old age. How many old people do you know that constantly get visited by their family members? It's more lonely when they have all those family members and they're not visiting. How about you save up your money your entire life, do what you want with your life, and then when you enter a retirement home, you have the money to pay for it. Plus, I've heard they have a really good time there. The STDs are rampant. This list was a fail. Follow for more tape.
One thing I've noticed about not having kids in your 30s is that people don't care about your life anymore. It's actually really funny. Because you'll go to gatherings and now people around your age, it could be friends, could be family, they have kids. So there are kids and babies at these parties and your adult life is just not even on their radar anymore. They're all just collectively like, your existing life is boring. We have a new life, and it's much more interesting. And I get it. I'm not doing like, why don't they care about me anymore? No, I get it. The baby's more interesting. I understand that. But it's just funny to see how disinterested people are in how your life is going. If your life updates don't include like, oh, I've spawned a child, they don't. They're just like, oh, your job's going well. That's cool. Create a life, please. Because you'll see that they'll like ask you like, oh, how are things going? And then as soon as you start saying words, they're just like, oh, that's good. Can we go to the baby? And the baby's just like, bah. And they're just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I get it. I'm not mad about it.
Why are mothers so triggered by people that don't want kids?
So as somebody with kids, I think from my perspective, the reason why sometimes parents can get annoyed and frustrated with people who don't have kids is that it's not just that they don't want kids, but they openly insinuate that you are miserable and hate your life because you have kids. There are people in the comment section of your video doing this. There was one person that said, misery loves company in response to your question. Like, I personally could not give less of a shit about what anybody does with their lives, whether people choose to have kids or not. In fact, most of my friends don't have kids, and I don't care at all. However, a lot of my friends have no problem with just like openly shit-talking me and the fact that I have kids right to my face. Like one time I was on a video call with my best friend, and my son woke up and I had to go put him back to sleep, and I came back and my friend just directly to me nonchalantly was like, I'm so glad I don't have kids. It seems like it would be awful. Don't say that to me. Keep that to yourself. One time I was at work and I managed this team of editors. There was like 5 or 6 people, and they got on the subject of talking about how horrible it would be to have kids and how miserable people with children would be. And they were just openly talking about this and laughing about it in front of me. And they all knew I had kids. And it doesn't feel good to be in a room of people just like openly insulting like a core part of your life. Like I actually teared up. I think it's the unapologetic attitude that it would be so terrible to have kids and that you must be miserable because you have kids. That is the main issue that parents have with talking and interacting with childless people. Like, it's very insulting for somebody to just to your face insinuate that your life must suck and that you're a miserable person. And I don't think they even realize what they're doing because, like I said, some of my best friends in the world will just casually say this stuff to me. I don't think that it even crosses their mind that this would be hurtful to say to somebody. It's just such an invalidation to such a large part of your life and literal human beings that are a part of your family that you love. Are there weirdos that have kids that go around insinuating that childless people are miserable? Absolutely. Are there weirdos with kids that go around acting like if you don't have kids, your life isn't fulfilled? Absolutely. I totally see that, and that absolutely happens. But I'm not one of those people, and yet I constantly experience this.
First of all, if you think you don't want kids, don't let anyone talk you into it.
Yep, all of this. As a teacher who works with kids, I do not want kids. And every single time that I say that, somebody wants to chime in and try to change my mind. I even had one woman tell me that my motherly instincts would kick in after I gave birth, and then I would want to be a mom and take care of the kid. Here's the thing though. What if I don't? Like, let's say I take everyone's advice and finally decide I'm gonna have kids, even though I don't want them. Everyone else is saying I'm gonna want them once I have them. And I have kids, and I hate those motherfuckers. What do I do at that point? I can't do anything. They're already here. I would rather not gamble with somebody else's life like that. Or we can take this a step further. I watch a lot of true crime, and there are a lot of stories on there of mothers unaliving their kids. And when they get to trial and everyone hears about the story, they're like, oh my God, if she didn't want kids, she shouldn't have had kids. Not saying I would do that or anything, but like, think about that shit. Not everyone is meant to be a parent.
Watch this video and then I'll be back.
By 2030, 45% of working women ages 25 to 45 will be non-married, no kids, single.
So what's wrong with that?
So you might say, well, what's wrong with that? If you think that you're going to genuinely be fulfilled in life because you made money, best of luck to you.
Okay, so he had one perspective. I'm going to give you another. And this one's coming from an actual woman who is single and child-free and fulfilled. When I was a little child in the 70s, my grandmother and her two sisters, all very well educated women, especially for that time period, looked at me and said, "Never depend on a man." And I was like, I'm 5. But what they were trying to instill in me was that my independence was important. They knew that a good education, especially at that time, led to financial freedom. And when you have financial freedom, you make better decisions for your life. I was married for 22 years. We never shared a bank account and we never had joint credit cards. When I got my amicable divorce, my lawyer said it was one of the easiest that he had ever done. And I wasn't planning on getting divorced, but having financial independence definitely made it easier. And it helped me with the decision that it was time to leave. I never felt trapped. I knew that I had my own money, and I knew that I had 4 college degrees. Whoever comes into my life at this point is here because I want them here, not because I need them here. I have a fantastic and supportive boyfriend, and he's in my life because I want him in my life. He doesn't pay any of my bills. We don't live together, and I have no intentions of getting married. I have a fantastic and supportive family. I have a huge group of female friends. I have a job that I love. I have hobbies I adore. I feel valued, connected, and fulfilled. I don't have a husband, and I don't have children. If you want a husband and you want children, great, please do it. That will be fulfilling for you. I just don't want you to listen to some guy with a podcast saying that you will be a miserable old crone if you don't do these things.
I have come to the realization that when you tell people you don't want kids, they think you hate kids.
Because they're stupid? Yep. Because they're dumb. There are way too many people in this world having kids just because. They're having kids because their next door neighbor had kids. They're having kids because that's what their mama said. There are a lot of people who do not know who they are outside of kids and a romantic relationship. That's why they ask people with no kids, what do you do outside of work? Or what do you do when you don't have kids? Like, what do you do with your life? And also, a lot of these people who accuse you of hating kids or disliking kids or wanting to unalive kids because you don't want them, yeah, they're the ones that feel like that. It's called projection. Anybody who accuses you of dumb shit that you wouldn't even dream of doing, trust me, they're doing it. These people regret having their kids, and they want everybody to know without actually letting them know.
We need to let people that want to be child-free be child-free. I saw a video from a creator, and she was talking about the fact that she is child-free by choice. And she has people her age constantly telling her, you're going to regret your decision, it's a bad decision, you should want to have kids. No, that's not the case. If people do not want to have kids, do not encourage them to have kids. And this is coming from somebody who loves being a parent. My entire personality is being a parent. It's the greatest thing in the world. But I agree that not everybody should be a parent.
Now, checking out some of the experience that child-free people talked about, I was actually surprised because I do not think that some of the reactions, some of the experience that happens in Nigeria, Africa, was what happened in Western countries like the US and UK. And so it was shocking to see that people would not think that someone that is child-free is responsible. Someone thinks that they are ungovernable. And like, what do you mean by that? Because in Nigeria, people who, especially women, who are of childbearing age or who are adults who can give birth and are supposed to have given birth or are supposed to have gotten married, if they don't have kids, people begin to look at them in a particular kind of way. If they are looking good, if they are maybe spending their money on things that are luxury, some people be like, oh, don't worry, when you have kids, you will not be able to do like that. There's this kind of disdain that they have for people that are not having kids and doing things that they that have kids might not be able to do because they have kids. Now, some people would also, I feel like it's a bit of envy when they see that someone, especially women who don't have kids, are reaching for the stars, doing things that are making them, they will say, bossy, or things that are making them look very good. They feel like, oh, if she had kids, she will not be doing this. They feel like the person is kind of wasting money or wasting resources by doing those things because they feel like you should be able to give it I don't know. I'm just saying you should be able to give it to them so that they can use it for their kids or something. That's why some people with kids will kind of start asking people that are single and don't have kids that why are they spending their money on particular kind of thing, or what are you using your money for? Maybe if they ask for money and those ones say no, I don't have, they'll be like, what are you using your money for? And the rest. Another thing is that sometimes, especially if the woman is not married, they don't want to listen to what she has to say. It's mostly like there's this kind of disrespect that she would get from those that are married and those that have kids, because they'd be like, you're not on the same level with me that is married and has kids, which is weird, but it happens. For the men always get away with everything. It's just that sometimes they get attacked, like, when are you getting kids, when are you marrying, and the rest, especially from their parents. They might get that, but most times it's the women that get attacked in a particular kind of way. Now, I've seen some couples in the US and other countries that say they don't want kids. I've outrightly not seen any couple that will just come and say, no, we don't want kids. Now, there are some couples that have been married for quite a while and have not had kids. And I can tell you for a fact, the woman is going through things, because even if it's a biological issue from the man, the woman will be attacked from all sides, from family, from people that are womb watchers and everything. They would be giving advice on how she can get pregnant, even if the fault is from the man. Such people get so much stress because they've been married for a while and they've not had kids, and the women are always stressed up. They are always going from one place to another, from one pastor to another, from one fertility expert to another. They are taking all kinds of things because they just want to get pregnant, they want to have a child, so that people will not look at them in a particular kind of way. So that happens. But for a couple to outrightly say, we don't want to have kids, I am not seeing it per se in Nigeria, because I don't think it's something that would work in Nigeria. Like, you marry and then you say, oh, mommy and daddy, we don't want to have kids. There's no how. The drama that will happen will be one of a kind. The parents, especially the mother, if she's dramatic, will begin to scream, shout, roll on the floor, do all kinds of things. There will be pastors being called, priests being called, imams, afar, a lot of people being called. They will think it's a spiritual problem. There is going to be so much drama. They will probably go on 90 days fasting, and so much would happen. I don't think a couple that don't want to have kids will actually tell their family members that we don't want to have kids. They might just say, oh, we're having issue, biological issue, and maybe if they are saying go to this doctor, go to that doctor, they might say we are not going. The doctor has said there's nothing that can happen. That might be the only way they can escape it. But to just outrightly say we don't want to have kids, we want to be child-free forever, I don't see that happening and things going smoothly. Honestly, it's going to be dramatic, really dramatic. So that's my thought about this whole topic. I would love to hear what you think about this topic. If you are child-free, if you don't have children for now, if you don't want to have children, I would love to hear your experience with people who have kids or the society at large. How have they treated you? What are the things that people have said to you? I would love to hear your experience. So please leave your comments in the comment section so that we can get this discussion popping. Now, if you like this video, please give it the thumbs up. If you are not yet subscribed and you like videos such as this, please consider subscribing by clicking on the red button that says subscribe, and don't forget to click on the bell notification icon by the side so that you're notified anytime I upload videos. Now, with all that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.